it's no nay, never. No nay, never, no more. Will I play the wild rover? No, never, no more. I've been a wild rover for many's a year. I've spent all me money on whiskey and beer. And now I'm returned with gold and great store. And I never will play the wild rover no more. And it's no nay, never. No nay, never, no more. Will I play the wild rover? No, never, no more.
I went into an alehouse I used to frequent, and I told the landlady my money was spent. I asked her for credit, she answered me nay, saying custom like yours I can have any day.
And it's no nay, never. No nay, never, no more. Will I play the wild rover? No, never, no more. I took from me pocket and sovereigns bright, and the landlady's eyes opened wide with delight. She said I have whiskies and wines of the best, and the words that I told you were only in jest. And it's no nay, never. No nay, never, no more. Will I play the wild rover? No, never, no more. I go home to me parents, confess what I've done, and I'll ask them to pardon their prodigal son. And when they caress me as oft times before, I never will play the wild rover no more. It's no nay, never. No nay, never, no more. Will I play the wild rover? No, never, no more. And it's no nay, never. No nay, never, no more. Will I play the wild rover? No, never, no more. Great, just find it.
Good evening, and welcome to tonight's edition of Issues in Safety. I'm your host and producer, Joe Fitzpatrick. And you see that I have two familiar faces from Skye XIII. Nick Coscia, he's probably
Joe, how are you?
the senior man here.
Thank you.
And Pastor Michael Festa.
Joe, how are you?
Very good. And we're going to be doing our energy talk. But before we do that, I got two things. I got a quick announcement. John, can you just turn the volume down on that? ARF, Animal Rescue Foundation, and I just got this message like an hour ago. They're having their open house. They are going to be opening up in Terryville. And I believe the fire was on November 23rd of 2008. And it's going to be like 3 years and 3 days from the fire that they're having the open house. Next Saturday, the 26th, is the open house. I don't have the times, but I'm sure it'll be in the papers. And if you remember last week, I did a show on the medical profession. I said how my mother was down in the hospital 4 times. Her doctor wanted a transfusion. They wouldn't do it. They sent her back. Well, guess what? The nurse was with her last Tuesday, and they sent her back down, and they finally had to do a transfusion. So we need to do some investigating before we start combining and having one hospital where now we have 2, and she ended up in the hallway for 6 hours, and they let her go at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's not right.
She's doing better now, Joe?
She's got a lot of swelling, and they got her on some medication and stuff. So Colleen and I were over with her this afternoon.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry for the loss of your uncle.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Mike.
Thank you. Great man passed away today, Richard Festa, my father's brother, at 10/28. Funniest guy you'd ever meet in your life, and I'll always remember him for that and the wonderful jokes he used to tell us. But thank you very much.
Yeah. And Friday was 3 years that my father died.
Okay.
Tomorrow will be 3 years that he's been buried. 3 years ago, right now, we were at his wake. So we all kind of have something in common.
But we're all going the same destiny.
Right. Oh yeah. Okay. And if Nick and I were out and we did. Okay, Nick, you want to talk about what?
Yeah, we took a tour today. Joe and I took a tour. We went from Frost Bridge down to a few substations in Waterbury. They've been talking a lot about trees, trees, trees. I went up in my last testimony up there, and I ended up with a 14-page testimony on the first storm, Storm Irene. So I says, you know, I'm tired of hearing about trees. Let's start talking about substations, substation control, and what can happen in these substations where there are no trees. So the tape you're about to see, ladies and gentlemen, are everything about the substations, what happens in the substations, and what happens when you don't have the material and you don't have the qualified people. So stand by, sit down, relax, and try to enjoy the educational program on safety issues here tonight.
It's going to be about 10 minutes. We can't show the whole thing because it will go through our whole show. And then Mike has a few things to discuss. And we're all in agreement. The three of us are all in agreement with. So we got like a 10-minute tape, and then we'll have like another 10 minutes to discuss it. And we're not taking phone calls tonight, so we can get the educational message out to our viewers.
Okay.
Okay, roll them, as they say.
Bridge substation. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour on what we have here and what can happen. This is not about trees. This is about if substations get in trouble and they go out and what it takes to rebuild this substation. Let me start out with the towers up here coming in. Those towers have 345,000 volts on them. Give you an example right up there. If there were trees high enough in those woods and those towers came down, this substation would be out. This substation would be in trouble. So now let me take you on a tour. The 345,000 volt comes in onto the high line here, into the substation, and steps down to 115,000 into these transformers. If these there goes some tree trucks right there, Joe.
Yep, we got it.
There's
They're
another
still out.
coincidence.
Yep.
Now, if these transformers get in trouble here, from 445 down to 115,000, it could take weeks to replace these transformers. These things weigh tons and tons and tons. So what do they have to do? They probably have to go down to Venezuela to build these. That's where they took these from, Venezuela, and they got to bring them back up here in Frost Bridge and put them back intact. So they build them down there, they put them on railroad cars and ship them up here, and then in turn, we have to build them in the substation. Now, if you look around here, you can see how long it would take to put these things all back together and test them. It would take at least 2 or 3 weeks. And if we don't have the portables to put these transformers back in, you could be out for weeks, because this particular part of the grid here, you'll see that it feeds all the way down the line. It feeds down to Freight Street, Baldwin Street, Bunker Hill, on just this side of town. These are some of the areas that I could just remember. Some of the other lines going out the other way, they feed in going down the other side of Connecticut. But I'm just giving you this side of what's going on in here on this side of Connecticut. Those lines going down there feed down to Baldwin Street, feed down to Freight Street, feed down to all the way down to South End, and some other stations that possibly, maybe I don't have them all down pat, but I'm just giving you a general view of what's happening here. And my whole concept here, this is not about trees. This is about rebuilding glass and transformers and breakers in the substation if they get in trouble. And that's why it's a very, very important issue to understand the other types of storms that can happen, electrical storms, hurricanes that can affect these substations, and it takes qualified manpower to come in here and do this. Line crews, electrical crews, cable crews, rigging crews, so many other crews, and electrical and test crews. To put this thing back together, God forbid, if this whole thing went out, it could take you months. So this, you haven't even seen the worst of it yet, like what could happen. And what's my goal here? To get people prepared for the next move and stay home in their houses and learn how to survive for a couple of months at home in case these things happen. Thank you. We'll be back shortly. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're over here at South Leonard Street substation. I built this little substation when my son was born, John. My son's he's 47 years old now. So this station's all 47 years old. This is one of your local distribution stations, lower distribution, and you can see where the switchgear is. Inside that switchgear are breakers, circuit breakers inside there, which go underground. Everybody talks underground. This is an underground substation with the pipes coming out and going up to these poles underground. But here's the key, ladies and gentlemen. You talk about underground services. It comes out of the substation underground and goes back up the poles onto the lines to go above ground again. So you can't put everything underground. This is a good illustration here from going from underground, going back to above ground, and eventually going back to underground again. Now, I built this thing like I tell you, 47 years ago. And they talk about the things being too close to schools and churches and everything else. St. Patrick's Church is right across the street on the other side. Okay? Over here, down here shortly, we'll be going down to where the jet transformer is. So you'll see where the generator is. And you can see where we are. You'll see the location. We're down here in South Leonard Street in Waterbury, Connecticut. And to give you another example about there's no trees here. They're making so much of an issue, trees, trees, trees. If this substation goes out here, there's 3 or 4 circuits in here that will go out if that transformer gets hit in here. I'm trying to explain to you what's going on out here without trees. There's not a tree around. Look at this, how bare it is. But lightning will take this out, or overloading cable will take this out, or if the transformer goes out, that's what will take this substation out. So we got to look at other types of storms that can happen outside of trees. Thank you. We'll be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're down here on South Leonard Street, and as you can see behind me, you can see the generator down here in South End. First,
Washington Ave.
Oh, Washington Avenue, sorry. Okay, we're near Washington Avenue. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're down here on Washington Avenue here in Waterbury, Connecticut. You can see behind me, there's the power generator that's working down here. And First Light Company and Suez, I think are joint ventures on this project here. But to make a long story short, let me give you an idea how this thing is working. The generator, when it generates electricity, goes into that transformer over there and steps up electricity from that transformer, which it could be 13.8 or 4800. I'm not sure the exact voltage in there right now. That steps up to 115,000, and as you can see, it goes out onto these high lines and these poles. And you can see all these poles and all these wires and everything out here. Once again, I want to mention, there's no trees here, ladies and gentlemen. No trees, it's perfectly clear. The type of storms that are going to interfere with this generator would be electrical, somebody hitting these poles. Look at all these poles here during an ice storm or a snowstorm. Look at the potential of any of these poles getting hit. Now, what's my point? If anything happens here in any of these poles or these transformers, or anything gets here, we don't have the material to recoup. But right over there across the street, I want you to notice something. There's an old factory site over there across the street where we can use storage, put storage, transformers, and everything in there that possibly could be put back online here. First of all, we go too far away to get the help. Then we don't have the qualified people. But this is what I'm talking about, storm restoration, so we can start putting things like this back in service so we wouldn't have to wait so long. It's very important, storm restoration, how long it takes to put customers back in service. So this generator right here, when this thing is operating, there's 90 megawatts. That's equivalent to feeding 50,000 customers. Now Waterbury has 100,000 people in this town. What is my point? If we had another one of these in this town, Waterbury might be able to unplug like Wallingford. We would have our own generating power right here in Waterbury, Connecticut, and we can unplug from the system just like Wallingford. During emergencies, you can go a long time. My point is our tower lines, our generators are too far away. When deregulation came in, deregulation said, let's deregulate and let's go to all other vendors all over. Okay, look what happened. The generators, a lot of them are all out of state. They're not in the state. We got a lot of hydro here, but a lot of the other generators are out of state. What are we doing now? We're going to go to N-Star. And N-Star is going to feed us up in the can of hydro. If those lines come down there, we still need local generating power for the future. And you talk about jobs, unless we straighten out our electrical grid, you're not going to have any jobs in this state. It's too high. The electric bills are too high, and it's taking too long to put the service, and these businesses can't afford to be out as long as they've been out in these power outages. Who's going to pay for all this? That's why I want to develop a preventive maintenance program, a safety program with the police, the fire, public works, and the electrical company. This last storm, everybody was held hostage because they had to wait for electricians and linemen and cable people to put the wires back in, and it took too long for the crews to get here. So we can tighten ourselves up in this state by getting everyone educated and get everybody on base. So for the next storms, we can be ready. Thank you. We're over here at Baldwin Street Substation here in Waterbury.